Today's class, we're going to be using a yoga block, but just for one exercise. So we can set it aside for now and come to lie on our backs, knees bent, feet flat. We'll start with a little bit of breathing, first noticing our lungs. So we're taking a nice breath in and feel the air come into your lungs as you inhale. And then breath out, feel the air come out of your lungs as you exhale. Inhale, air coming into lungs. And exhale, air coming out of lungs. One more time. Adding on to that image, as you inhale, feel the ribs expand three-dimensionally. And as you exhale, feel those ribs narrow or contract. So your inhale, those ribs expand to the front, to the sides, to the back. And as you exhale, those ribs narrow. Again, inhaling, feeling that rib expansion. And exhaling, feeling that rib narrowing. We'll continue focusing on breath, but this time bringing your hands to your lower abdomen. And as you inhale, feeling that belly rise. And as you exhale, feeling that belly fall. As you inhale, you'll gently feel the rise of your belly. And exhale, feeling it fall. One more time, feeling that belly rise. And fall. Still focusing on that belly. When it rises, maybe you'll sense that the abdominal muscles are lengthening. And when it falls, maybe you'll sense that the abdominal muscles are shortening. And just see if you can tap into that connection. Inhale, feeling abdominal muscles lengthen. And exhale, feel a gentle shortening of the abdominal muscles. One more time, feel them lengthen as you inhale. And shorten as you exhale. We'll rest our fingertips for a moment on our hip points, our ASISs, and we'll start to rock those hip points towards our ribs, and then rock those hip points away from our ribs. So we're pelvic tilting, hip points moving towards ribs, and hip points moving away from ribs. Allow your body to be heavy into the floor. Feeling how you're relaxing into that floor as you gently rock those hip points away from ribs and hip points towards ribs. Perhaps noticing those abdominals once again, how when the hip points come towards the ribs, that abdominal muscles shorten, and as they move away from the ribs, the abdominal muscles lengthen. Hip points towards ribs, abdominal muscles shorten. Hip points away from ribs, abdominal muscles lengthen. Let's add the breath, inhaling to rock hip points away from ribs, exhaling to rock hip points towards ribs. Inhaling to rock hip points away, Exhale to rock hip points towards ribs. Try a few more on your own. And then we'll pause. We'll find our yoga block and place it under our head, lying on our sides. Have the bulk of the yoga block behind the head and bring your hands to stack on top of one another. From here, drag the top hand across the bottom arm, across the chest, and open out to the side. And then reverse. I'm going to move a little closer to the front of my mat. And opening and reversing. So these are book openings. You can leave your knees and your belly button pointed forward as you open that chest towards the ceiling, and then reverse. Opening that chest, nice big inhale, and reverse. We'll do one more. And then we'll change sides. So I'm going to face away from the camera. You can roll onto your second side, reaching those arms out in front, and then dragging the top arm across the bottom arm, and rotate to open and reverse. You can do a nice big inhale, aiming that breastbone towards the ceiling, feeling that stretch across the chest. Inhale to open, and exhale, reverse. Last time. And then we'll take that block and set it aside, lying on our backs once again. And this time, separating our feet about shoulder width or a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. And we're going to sway those knees over to one side and then switch and over to the other side. Now, if you have the space, you can bring your arms out to a T. I'm a little bit landlocked with the wall, so I'm leaving my arms in a bit of an A frame. When you tip your knees over this next time, do a little pause and notice how the ribs on the opposite side are peeled off the mat, and then slowly peel those ribs down to the mat to bring your legs back to center. So tip over in the other direction, those ribs lifting off the mat, and then peel those ribs onto the mat to bring the knees back to the center. So even though the legs are swaying side to side, feel that relationship in the ribs, getting some gentle rotation through your thorax. We'll go one more each side. Come back to the center. Arms can be long at your sides, feet about hip distance apart. And then we're going to bend those elbows, fingertips to the ceiling. Find a little bit of connection between the mat and the back of your shoulders, gently pressing backs of shoulders and feet into the floor. And we're going to press those hips straight up on an exhale, and then lower down on an inhale. So exhaling to press those hips up and inhaling to lower those hips down. Find the foot and back of shoulder connection as you press up into your bridge and then lower down. 2 more like this. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Last time, exhale, lift. And inhale, lower. Good work. Bringing those fingertips towards those hip points and placing them there for a moment. We're going to inhale, and then as we exhale, you're gently going to draw those hip points towards one another. Nothing's going to move per se. And then inhale and let that go. So your exhale is gently going to draw those hip points narrow or towards one another. And then on the inhale, you're going to soften that connection. You could even exhale through pursed lips and extend that exhale a little bit, finding some deep, low abdominal connection. And once you can feel that low abdominal support, as you exhale and draw those hip points towards one another, we're going to go into some gentle hip folding. So the arms can rest at your sides. And you're going to exhale and pull one leg up to tabletop. Inhale at the top. And then exhale, set that leg down. You're going to inhale with both feet on the floor. Exhale, second side, pulling that leg up into tabletop. Inhale, hold in tabletop. And exhale, lower down. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale to tabletop. Inhale at the top. And exhale, lower down. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, hip fold. Inhale, hold. And exhale, lower down. All right, we're going to change the breath pattern. So instead of 4 breaths per cycle, we'll go into 2 breaths per cycle. So when you're ready, you exhale and bring that leg to tabletop. And inhale, setting it down. Exhale, feel those hip points draw in towards center. And inhale, lowering down with control. Exhale, tabletop. Inhale, lower down. You keep going, keeping that space between the mat and the low back. Keeping your mid back heavy. Keeping your shoulders relaxed. And seeing if you can feel that gentle drawing in of hip points towards each other when you go into that hip fold. One more each side. Excellent. From here, we're going to come on to hands and knees. Wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. And we're going to start with a little cat-cow. So rounding that spine up and then dipping that spine down. Rounding that spine up and dipping your spine down. feeling through your vertebra and seeing if you can round and bring tail and head to the floor, and then dip tail and head to the ceiling. Rounding tail and head towards floor, dipping tail and head towards sky. Pause in the middle of those 2 points, pushing the floor away with your hands, and you're going to shift your hips back, no rounding of the spine, and then shift the hips forward. So shifting those hips back, and then shifting hips forward. See if you can feel the base of the pelvis widen as you shift back, and then the base of the pelvis narrows as you come forward. So it might feel as though your glutes are widening into your tights, and then reversing that a little bit. Feeling that widening sensation in the base of the pelvis and that reversal. One more time. And then we're going to come on up to stand. So making your way up to stand in whatever ways that is comfortable. And we're going to place ourselves into our kickstand hinge position. So bringing one foot forward, that will be the working leg, and your other leg back in a little bit of a heel lifted position where you're just kind of using that back leg for balance. Bending that front knee, and you're going to take the front leg hand and place it on your glute, and the other hand and place it in your hip crease. So keeping that bend in the front knee, and then from here pushing into the ground, and you're going to hinge forward. The bum is going to shift towards the wall behind you, and then push the hip forward to come up. So we're focusing on the front leg here, and you're going to shift that glute or that hip towards the wall behind you, and then reverse and push the hip forward. So that knee is staying consistently bent on the front leg, and you allow that hip or that glute to press back. A little pause at the bottom and push forward. So that glute is going to shift back, press it into your hand. Feel the hip crease on the front and come forward. Last time, hinge, hip shifting back, 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 and unhinge, hip shifting forward, forward, forward. Time to switch. So planting your second side, kickstand with the back leg, front knee bent. Take the opposite hand to the front leg and place the fingertips in that crease, that line. Take the same side hand of the front leg and place it on your glute. Bend that front leg. Front leg is the working side, back foot light. And we're going to press that front hip back, 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 and then drive it forward. So the front leg, as we go into that hinge, the glute is shifting to the wall behind, 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 traveling back in space. And then we reverse, and that glute travels forward in space. So we can think about it as glute, we can think about it as hip, feeling that hip travel to the wall behind, 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 and then push forward, forward, forward. Making sure that that front knee stays bent, hinging forward, push into the ground, and come up. So that hip shifts back, back, back. That's what's going to bring the torso forward. And then that hip shifts forward, 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 and that's going to bring the torso up. Keep that front knee bent as we hinge. Hip shifts back, back, back. Push into that floor and shift the hip forward, forward, forward. Give that a little shake. And hopefully we're feeling a little more balanced, a little awake in our glutes, and ready to start our day.